I thought I knew my sister-in-law Rachel. We'd been close for 3 years, ever since I started dating her brother Marcus. She helped me pick out flowers, tasted cake samples with me, and even held my hand when I got overwhelmed with wedding planning. So when my custom-made $4,000 wedding dress went missing from the bridal shop 3 days before my ceremony, Rachel was the first person I called, sobbing. What I discovered 6 months later would shatter everything I thought I knew about family, trust, and the lengths people will go to steal someone else's happiness. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The morning of October 15th started like any other Tuesday. I was running, late for work, juggling my coffee and laptop bag while trying to answer my phone. It was Mrs. Chen from Bella Rosa Bridal calling, and the panic in her voice made my stomach drop. "Emma, I'm so sorry, but there's been a problem with your dress." I stopped walking, right there on the sidewalk in downtown Portland, as people rushed past me. "What kind of problem?" "It's missing. Someone picked it up yesterday using your authorization form, but when I called to confirm the final pressing appointment, your fiancé said you never sent anyone." The world tilted. My custom Vera, Wong-inspired gown with hand-sewn pearls and French lace that took 4 months to create, was gone. The dress I'd saved for over a year to afford. The dress I'd dreamed about since I was 12, sketching designs in my diary. "That's impossible," I whispered. "I have the pickup form right here in my purse. I was coming Thursday morning." "Mrs. Chen's voice was barely audible. "Emma, the person who took it had a copy of your form with your signature. They knew all the details, the alterations, the special bustle we added, even about the blue ribbon you wanted sewn inside. Only 3 people knew about that blue ribbon. Me, Marcus, and Rachel." I called Marcus immediately, my hands shaking. So hard I could barely dial. He was in a client meeting at his architectural firm, but when I told him what happened, he left everything and drove straight to the bridal shop. We spent 2 hours going through security footage, but the cameras only showed someone in a hooded jacket and sunglasses carrying out a garment bag. The police said it was a civil matter. The insurance company said the coverage only applied if the dress was stolen from my home. Mrs. Chen was devastated but legally protected since someone had the proper authorization. We were trapped in a nightmare with no way out and a wedding. In 3 days, that's when Rachel showed up. She burst through my apartment door that evening with determination written all over her face. "Emma, we're going to fix this. I've been calling every bridal shop within 50 miles. There's a consignment place in Salem that has a dress in your size. It's not exactly what you wanted, but it's beautiful." I was curled up on my couch, surrounded by tissues, still in my work clothes from that morning. Marcus sat beside me, rubbing my back while I cried for the 3rd time that day. Rachel looked immaculate as always, her dark hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless despite the stress, wearing one of her expensive blazers from her job at the marketing firm. "I can't wear someone else's dress," I sobbed. "This was supposed to be perfect. We've been planning for 18 months. Rachel sat down across from me, her green eyes filled with what looked like genuine sympathy. "Emma, listen to me. The dress doesn't make the marriage. You're marrying the love of your life. That's what matters." She was right, of course. But it didn't stop the crushing disappointment or the feeling that someone had deliberately sabotaged the most important day of my life. Who would do this? Who even knew enough about my dress to forge the paperwork? The next morning, Rachel drove me to Salem. The consignment dress was lovely, ivory satin with delicate beading, though it hung loose in places and was slightly too long. The shop owner, Mrs. Patterson, was incredibly kind and offered to do emergency alterations for free when she heard what happened. "This kind of thing happens more than you'd think," she said, pinning the hemline. "Wedding stress brings out the worst in people sometimes. But you're going to look stunning. Rachel squeezed my shoulder. See? Everything works out for a reason. I should have been grateful. Rachel had saved my wedding. She'd spent her entire day driving me around, paying for gas, even offering to cover half the cost of the dress when she saw me hesitate over the $800 price tag. But something felt off. There was an energy about her I couldn't place. Almost. Like excitement beneath her concern. The wedding day arrived gray and drizzling, which felt appropriate for my mood. The consignment dress fit better after the alterations, and my mom had worked miracles with my grandmother's pearl necklace and some borrowed earrings from my maid of honor, Jessica. As I stood in the bridal suite at Riverside Gardens, looking at myself in the full-length mirror, I tried to summon joy. "You look beautiful," Jessica said, adjusting my veil. "That dress could have been made for you. But it wasn't made for me. My dress, the one I'd sketched and planned and dreamed about, was somewhere else, with someone else." The thought made my chest tight. Rachel appeared in the doorway, stunning in her burgundy maid of honor dress. "The photographer wants to do family photos before the ceremony. Are you ready?" I nodded, forcing a smile. This was my wedding day. I was marrying Marcus, my best friend, and the love of my life. The dress was just fabric and thread. What mattered was the promise we were about to make. The ceremony was beautiful despite everything. Marcus cried when he saw me walking down the aisle, and his smile was so bright it made me forget about everything else for a moment. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, promising to support each other through good times and bad, to choose love every day, to build a life together filled with laughter and adventure. Rachel stood beside me, holding my bouquet, tears streaming down her cheeks. During the ring exchange, she whispered, "This is so perfect, Emma. You deserve all the happiness in the world." The reception was everything we'd dreamed of. Our families mingled easily, the band played all our favorite songs, and the dinner was delicious. But throughout the evening, I caught Rachel taking photos constantly. Not just the typical wedding shots, but detailed pictures of my dress, my shoes, even close-ups of my bouquet and jewelry. When I asked her about it, she laughed. "I want to remember every detail. This day is so special, and you look absolutely radiant. I'm documenting everything for the photo album I'm making you." It was sweet, really. Rachel had always been thoughtful, like that, going above and beyond to make people feel loved. She'd spent the entire week before the wedding helping with last-minute details, staying up late to tie ribbons on favor boxes, even driving my elderly great-aunt to her hair appointment when her usual ride fell through. As Marcus and I danced, our first dance to At Last by Etta James, I felt the stress of the past few days finally melting away. We were married. Nothing else mattered now. We had our whole lives ahead of us, and we'd face whatever came next together. Rachel danced with Marcus's dad during the father-daughter dance, since her own father had passed away when she was in college. She looked radiant, spinning in her burgundy dress, laughing at something he whispered in her ear. Everyone said we looked like sisters, with our similar builds and long brown hair, though her features were sharper where mine were softer. Later, as we cut the cake, a 3-tier vanilla and raspberry creation that had taken Jessica weeks to perfect, Rachel appeared at my elbow with her phone out again. "One more photo," she said. "This lighting is perfect." I posed with Marcus, both of us laughing as we attempted to feed each other cake without making a mess. In the background, I could see our friends and family watching, faces glowing with happiness and too much champagne. These were the people who loved us, who'd supported us through 3 years together, who'd helped us build this beautiful celebration even when everything seemed to go wrong. The evening wound down around midnight. As Marcus and I prepared to leave for our honeymoon suite at the Heathman Hotel downtown, Rachel hugged me tight. "Thank you for letting me be part of your perfect day," she whispered. "I love you so much, Emma. Welcome to the family, officially." We drove away in Marcus's decorated car, tin cans rattling behind us, with my heart finally full despite everything that had gone wrong. I had married my best friend surrounded by people who loved us. The dress drama seemed like a distant memory now, just a story we'd tell someday about how nothing could ruin our wedding day. I had no idea that in 6 months, I'd discover the truth about my missing dress, and it would change everything I thought I knew about the people I trusted most. The honeymoon in Maui was everything we'd hoped for. 2 weeks of pristine beaches, couples massages, and dinners overlooking the Pacific Ocean helped wash away the stress of wedding planning. Marcus and I spent lazy mornings in bed, afternoons snorkeling, and evenings dancing to live music at beachside bars. By the time we returned to Portland, the dress incident felt like ancient history. Real life resumed quickly. I threw myself back into my job as a graphic designer at Morrison Creative Agency, working on a major rebranding project for a local restaurant chain. Marcus was deep into designing a sustainable housing development that had been his dream project for years. We settled into married life in our small but cozy craftsman bungalow in the Hawthorne district, painting the spare bedroom and arguing good-naturedly about whether to get a cat or a dog. Rachel became a regular fixture in our lives, stopping by most Sunday evenings for dinner. She'd bring wine and stories from her marketing job, always perfectly dressed and full of energy. She seemed genuinely interested in our new marriage, asking about our routines, our plans for the future, even our disagreements. Marriage is such an adjustment, she'd say, curled up on our couch with a glass of Pinot Noir. I love watching you two figure it out together. You're so good for Marcus, Emma. He's happier than I've ever seen him. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. Her attention felt natural at first. She was Marcus's only sibling, and their parents lived in Arizona now, so it made sense that she'd want to stay close. But as the weeks turned into months, I started noticing things that made me uncomfortable. She had keys to our house, which Marcus had given her years ago for emergencies. But she used them frequently, showing up unannounced with coffee or takeout, letting herself in when we were running late from work. I'd come home to find her reorganizing our pantry or doing our laundry, claiming she was just trying to help. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd surprise you, she'd say when I'd find her folding our clothes. You're both working so hard, and I had free time. Marcus thought it was sweet. She's just being thoughtful, Em. That's how Rachel shows love. But there was something possessive about the way she moved through our space, touching our things, commenting on our purchases. When I bought new throw pillows for the living room, she wrinkled her nose and said they clashed with the wall color. When Marcus surprised me with flowers on a random Tuesday, she mentioned that roses were so predictable and suggested he try something more creative next time. The real turning point came in February, 4 months after our wedding. I was scrolling through Facebook during my lunch break when I saw that Rachel had posted a new photo album, My Perfect Day. My heart stopped. The cover photo was Rachel in a wedding dress. Not just any wedding dress, my wedding dress. The custom Vera Wang-inspired gown with hand-sewn pearls and French lace that had been stolen from Bella Rosa Bridal. She was standing in what looked like a professional photography studio, smiling radiantly at the camera, holding a bouquet of white roses. My hands started shaking as I clicked through the album. There were dozens of photos, Rachel in my dress from every angle, posed like a real bride. Close-ups of the intricate beadwork I'd spent hours choosing. Detail shots of the French lace sleeves that had cost extra. Even a photo of the blue. Ribbon sewn inside, something blue that only 3 people had known about. The captions made my stomach turn. Finally got to wear the dress of my dreams. Some things are worth waiting for. When you know, you know. Feeling like a princess in this custom creation. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I could breathe again, I called Marcus immediately. He answered on the first ring, probably hearing the panic in my voice. Emma, what's wrong? Rachel has my dress. She's wearing it. She posted photos on Facebook. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, Marcus spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "That's impossible. Rachel would never—" "Marcus, I'm looking at the photos right now. It's my dress. Every detail, every bead, every piece of lace. She stole my wedding dress." I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end. "Send me the link. I'll call you back in 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes felt like hours. I sat in the bathroom stall, staring at the photos, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The woman I'd trusted, who'd held my hand while I cried, who'd driven me all over Oregon to find a replacement dress, had been wearing mine the entire time. The timestamps on the photos were from December, just 2 months after our wedding. While Marcus and I were settling into married life, while I was still occasionally sad about my lost dress, Rachel was playing bride in it. My phone rang. "I'm coming to get you," Marcus said, his voice tight with anger. "We're going to Rachel's apartment right now." "Marcus, what if—" No what ifs. If this is real, if she really did this." He trailed off, and I could hear him starting his car. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. The drive to Rachel's apartment in the Pearl District was silent. Marcus gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white, and I sat clutching printouts of the Facebook photos I'd made at work. The evidence was undeniable, but part of me still hoped there was some explanation, some misunderstanding that would make this all make sense. Rachel answered the door in yoga clothes, her face lighting up when she saw us. "Hey, what a nice surprise. I was just about to start dinner if you want to." She stopped mid-sentence when she saw our expressions. "We need to talk," Marcus said, pushing past her into the apartment. I'd been to Rachel's place dozens of times, but now I looked at it with new eyes. It was immaculate, expensive, filled with designer furniture and fresh flowers, the kind of place that required a significant income to maintain, more than her marketing job should have allowed. "Okay, you're scaring me," Rachel said, closing the door behind us. "What's going on?" Marcus turned to face his sister, and I'd never seen him look so angry. "Where is Emma's wedding dress, Rachel?" The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. "What are you talking about?" I held up the printed photos. "These are from your Facebook page. You're wearing my dress. My custom dress that was stolen from the bridal shop." Rachel's eyes darted between the photos and our faces. For a moment, I thought she was going to deny it, but then something shifted in her expression. The mask slipped, and I saw something cold and calculating underneath. "You don't understand," she said quietly. "Then explain it to us," Marcus said. "Explain how. You ended up with Emma's wedding dress. Explain how you had a copy of her authorization form. Explain how you knew about details that only family knew about." Rachel moved to her kitchen island, putting distance between us. When she turned around, she wasn't the warm, supportive sister-in-law I'd known for 3 years. This was someone else entirely. "Do you want to know the truth?" she asked, her voice steady now. "The real truth?" "Yes," I whispered. "I never thought you were good enough for Marcus." The words hit like a physical blow. Marcus stepped forward, his face flushed with anger, but Rachel held up a hand. "Let me finish. You came into our family and changed everything. Marcus used to call me every day. We had plans together, traditions. Then you showed up and suddenly I barely existed. You took my brother away from me." "Rachel, that's not—" Marcus started, but she cut him off. "It is true, Marcus. And when you got engaged, when I saw how excited you were about this perfect wedding, about this perfect dress that you couldn't stop talking about, I realized something. Emma didn't deserve perfect. She didn't deserve you, and she definitely didn't deserve that dress." My legs felt weak. I sank onto her couch, still clutching the photos. "So you stole it." "I liberated it," Rachel said, lifting her chin defiantly. "I knew someone who worked at a print shop. Getting a copy of your authorization form was easy once I saw the original in your purse. And honestly, it looked better on me anyway." The cruelty in her voice was breathtaking. This was the woman who'd helped me taste cakes, who'd driven me to Salem to find a replacement dress, who'd cried tears of joy during our ceremony. It had all been an act. Marcus was staring at his sister like he'd never seen her before. Rachel, do you realize what you did? You ruined Emma's wedding day. You made her cry for days. I saved her from being too comfortable, Rachel interrupted. From thinking she could just waltz into our family and take whatever she wanted. She got a wedding, didn't she? She got you. She should have been grateful for what she had. I stood up on shaky legs. I want my dress back. Rachel laughed, a sound I'd never heard from her before, bitter and sharp. It's at the dry cleaner. I spilled wine on it at the photo shoot. But don't worry, I'll pay for the cleaning. She said it like she was doing me a favor, like she hadn't committed theft and fraud and broken my heart, like she hadn't spent months lying to our faces while playing the perfect supportive sister. Marcus walked toward the door, his face pale. We're leaving, and you're going to return Emma's dress by tomorrow, or I'm calling the police. You won't call the police, Rachel said confidently. I'm family. Marcus turned back to look at his sister one more time. No, Rachel. Family doesn't do this. I don't know who you are anymore. As we reached the door, Rachel called out, Emma, wait. Against my better judgment, I turned around. That blue ribbon you wanted sewn inside for something blue? I cut it out. It was tacky. I didn't trust myself to speak. Marcus put his arm around me and we walked out, leaving Rachel standing in her perfect apartment with her perfect lies crumbling. Around her, the drive home was suffocating. Marcus stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched so tight I worried he'd crack a tooth. I kept replaying Rachel's words, the venom in her voice when she said I didn't deserve perfect. The casual way she'd admitted to cutting out my something blue ribbon like it was nothing more than a loose thread. When we pulled into our driveway, Marcus finally spoke. I'm going to be sick. He rushed inside, and I heard the bathroom door slam. I sat alone in our living room, looking at the space Rachel had invaded so many times over the past months. The throw pillows she'd criticized were still there, along with a coffee mug she'd left on the side table just 2 days ago. Evidence of how thoroughly she'd woven herself into our lives while harboring such hatred. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. You deserve to know everything. A friend. The email contained a link to a private Instagram account under the name Rachel Michaels Bridal. My hands trembled as I scrolled through dozens of photos. Rachel in my dress at various locations around Portland, Pioneer Courthouse Square, the Japanese Garden, even outside the church where Marcus and I had gotten married. She'd created an entire fantasy wedding with my dress as the centerpiece. The captions were worse than the Facebook photos. My dream dress for my dream day. Finally found my prince charming. Some brides settle. Not me. Worth the wait for perfection. In several photos, she was posed with a dark-haired man I didn't recognize, both of them laughing and embracing like an actual couple. The timestamps showed she'd been doing this for months, starting just weeks after our wedding. Marcus emerged from the bathroom, pale and shaky. Em, what are you looking at? I handed him my phone without a word. He sank into the chair across from me, scrolling through the Instagram account with growing horror. She's completely lost her mind, he whispered. This isn't just about the dress. She's created some kind of alternate reality where she's the bride. Who's the man in the photos with her? Marcus zoomed in on one of the pictures. I think that's Derek from her work. She's mentioned him before, but she always said they were just friends. A new text came through from the same unknown number. There's more. Check the Portland Mercury classifieds from last month. Search Rachel Michaels' wedding dress. My stomach dropped as I opened the newspaper's website. There it was, buried. In the classifieds, stunning custom wedding dress for sale. Vera Wang inspired, hand-sewn pearls, French lace, size 6. Worn once for photos only. $6,000 OBO. Serious inquiries only. Contact Rachel. 503-555-0147. $6,000. She was trying to sell my dress for more than I'd originally paid for it? She's trying to profit from it, I said, my voice hollow. She stole my dress, and now she wants to make money off it. Marcus was already dialing his phone. Rachel. Pick up. I know you're there. He waited, then tried again, and again. Finally, on the 4th call, she answered. I could hear her voice through the speaker, artificially sweet. Marcus, did you calm down? I was hoping we could talk about this rationally. You're selling Emma's dress. The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if she'd hung up. I don't know what you're talking about. Portland Mercury, last month's classifieds. $6,000 for a dress you stole. I wasn't actually going to sell it, Rachel said quickly. I was just curious what it might be worth. Market research. Bullshit. And what about the Instagram account? The fake engagement photos? Rachel, you need help. Professional help. I could hear Rachel's breathing change, becoming rapid and shallow. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Everyone keeps asking when I'm going to get married, when I'm going to settle down like my little brother. Do you know what that feels like? Watching your younger sibling get everything you want? So you decided to steal it? I borrowed it. I was going to give it back eventually. When? After you sold it? After you destroy it completely? Marcus was pacing now, running his free hand through his hair. Rachel, I'm giving you one last chance. Bring Emma's dress to our house tomorrow, by noon, or I'm calling the police and telling Mom and Dad everything. The mention of their parents seemed to break something in Rachel. Her voice turned cold again, the mask slipping back off. You wouldn't dare involve them. Try me. Fine, but I want something in return. Marcus stopped pacing. You want something? You stole from us? Lied to us? Ruined Emma's wedding day? And you want something? I want an apology. From who? From Emma. For taking you away from me. For changing everything between us. I grabbed the phone from Marcus. Are you insane? I'm not apologizing to you for marrying your brother. Then you won't get your dress back. Rachel, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I never tried to take Marcus away from you. I encouraged him to spend time with you. I invited you to everything. I treated you like the sister I never had. You're lying. No, I'm not. And deep down, you know it. You know I've been nothing but kind to you. You know I welcomed you into our relationship. This isn't about me taking Marcus away. This is about you not being able to handle that your brother grew up. The line went quiet, except for Rachel's breathing. You're wrong, she said finally, but her voice lacked conviction. Bring me my dress, Rachel, and then stay away from us until you figure out how to be a decent human being. I hung up and immediately started crying. Not the gentle tears I'd shed over the dress originally, but angry, frustrated sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. Marcus sat beside me and pulled me close. I'm so sorry, Em. I'm so sorry she did this to you. To us. Your own sister, I said between sobs. She sat in our living room and ate dinner with us and pretended to care about us while she was planning this whole thing. I keep thinking about all the times she was here after the wedding, Marcus said quietly. How she wanted to see your ring, touch your flowers from the reception, look through our wedding photos. I thought she was being supportive, but she was studying everything, learning details she could use. My phone buzzed with another message from the anonymous number. You should know. Rachel tried to hire Derek to pretend to be her fiancé for real engagement photos. He refused and quit his job last week to get away from her. She's been telling people at work that you two are getting divorced. I showed Marcus the message. His face went from pale to red with anger. She's telling people we're getting divorced? What the hell is wrong with her? She's delusional, I said. She's created this whole fantasy where she's the victim, and I'm the villain, and somehow she deserves my life. We spent the rest of the evening researching our legal options. The police had been right initially, since Rachel had used forged authorization. It was technically a civil matter rather than criminal theft. But the fraud aspect, along with the attempted sale, might change things. A lawyer friend of Marcus's agreed to look into it pro bono. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rachel's cold smile when she told me she'd cut out the blue ribbon. The casual cruelty of it haunted me more than anything else. That ribbon had been from my grandmother's wedding dress, a piece of family history that could never be replaced. At 11:30 the next morning, Marcus positioned himself by the front window to watch for Rachel's car. I sat at the kitchen table, unable to focus on anything. Part of me didn't believe she'd actually show up. Part of me hoped she wouldn't, so we could be done with this nightmare and just call the police. At 11:58, a black sedan pulled into our driveway. "She's here," Marcus said grimly. But instead of Rachel getting out of the car, it was a delivery driver with a large white box. He handed it to Marcus along with a clipboard to sign, then drove away without a word. Inside the box was my wedding dress, carefully wrapped in tissue paper. And underneath it, a note written in Rachel's precise handwriting. "Emma, you win. But don't think this is over. Some things can't be forgiven. R." I lifted my dress from the box with shaking hands. It looked perfect on the surface, professionally, cleaned and pressed, but when I held it up to the light, I could see tiny holes where the pearls had been removed and hastily sewn back on. The French lace had small tears that had been mended with cheaper thread. And where my grandmother's blue ribbon should have been, there was nothing but a rough seam. She'd returned my dress, but she'd made sure it would never be the same. I held my damaged wedding dress against my chest and felt something inside me break. Not sadness this time. Pure, white-hot rage. Rachel had taken something precious and deliberately destroyed it out of spite. The careful repairs were almost worse than if she'd burned it entirely, because they showed she knew exactly what she was doing. "She wanted me to see this?" I said to Marcus, pointing to the sloppy stitching where my grandmother's ribbon had been torn out. "She wanted me to know she ruined it on purpose." Marcus took the dress from my hands and examined it under the kitchen light. His face went through a series of emotions: disbelief, anger, and finally something I'd never seen before: cold determination. "That's it. I'm calling Detective Morrison." While Marcus was on the phone with the police, I noticed something else in the box. Tucked beneath the tissue paper was a small plastic bag containing what looked like blue fabric. Scraps. The destroyed remains of my grandmother's ribbon. Rachel had included the evidence of her vandalism like a trophy, but there was something else in the bag. A USB drive with a sticky note attached. "Insurance policy, RM." I plugged it into my laptop with trembling fingers. The drive contained hundreds of files, screenshots of text conversations, recorded phone calls, and detailed notes about our marriage spanning back 3 years. Rachel had been documenting everything, building some kind of case against me. The text screenshots showed conversations between Rachel and various family members, all carefully edited to make me look controlling and manipulative. In one, she'd cropped out the context of a message where I'd asked Marcus to call his parents, making it look like I was demanding he cut contact with his family. In another, she'd altered a group chat to make it seem like I'd excluded her from our Christmas plans. The recorded phone calls were worse. Rachel had been secretly recording our conversations for months, then editing them to remove her negative comments and leave only my responses. She'd created an entire narrative where I was the villain systematically destroying her relationship with Marcus. "What are you looking at?" Marcus asked, hanging up the phone. I turned the laptop toward him. "She's been building a case against me. For 3 years. Marcus sat down heavily and started clicking through the files. These recordings are illegal in Oregon without consent from both parties. She doesn't care about legal. Look at this folder, labeled divorce evidence. The folder contained financial documents about our house, copies of our bank statements, and what looked like consultation notes from a private investigator. Rachel had been preparing for our marriage to fail, and when it didn't happen naturally, she'd decided to help it along. One document made my blood run cold. A typed letter addressed to Marcus's parents, dated 2 weeks after our wedding. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm writing to you with a heavy heart about Marcus and Emma's marriage. I've been trying to protect Marcus, but I can't stay silent anymore. Emma has been isolating him from our family systematically. She convinced him not to call you as much. She excludes me from their plans, and she's already talking about moving away from Portland. I'm worried about Marcus's mental health. He seems different, controlled. Emma monitors his phone calls and gets angry when he spends time with me. I think she married him for financial security. Did you know she quit her job right after the wedding? This was a lie. I'd gotten a promotion. I don't want to cause problems, but I love my brother and I'm scared for him. Maybe you could visit soon and see for yourselves how she treats him? I have documentation if you need proof. Love always. Rachel P.S. Please don't tell Marcus I wrote to you. Emma has threatened to turn him against me completely if I interfere. The letter had never been sent, but seeing my character systematically destroyed in black and white was devastating. Marcus read over my shoulder, his breathing getting heavier with each line. She was going to send this to Mom and Dad, he said, quietly. She was going to poison them against you before they even got to know you as my wife. Why didn't she? Because you were too nice to her. She couldn't make the narrative stick when you kept inviting her over and treating her like family. Detective. Morrison arrived an hour later, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She listened to our story without interruption, taking notes while examining my damaged dress and the contents of the USB drive. The dress theft is tricky, she said finally. But this surveillance and documentation crosses several lines. Recording, private conversations without consent, identity theft for the authorization forms, fraud for the attempted sale. We can definitely pursue charges. What about her threatening note? Marcus asked. Detective Morrison reread Rachel's message. Don't think this is over could be interpreted as threatening. Combined with her pattern of deception and surveillance, I'd recommend filing for a restraining order as well. That afternoon, we drove to the courthouse to begin the legal process. It felt surreal, filling out paperwork to protect ourselves from someone who'd sat at our dinner table just days before. But with each form we completed, I felt a weight lifting from my chest. We were finally taking action instead of just reacting to Rachel's manipulation. The real test came that evening when Marcus called his parents in Arizona. Mom, it's Marcus. Emma and I need to tell you something about Rachel. I sat beside him on the couch, listening to his halting explanation of what his sister had done. I could hear his mother's shocked responses even through the phone. She stole Emma's wedding dress? Marcus, that's impossible. Rachel was so supportive of your wedding. She called me every week with updates about the planning. What kind of updates? There was a pause. Well, she was worried about Emma's stress levels. She said Emma was becoming very controlling about the details, very particular about everything being perfect. Rachel was concerned it was putting too much pressure on you. Marcus and I looked at each other. Even his parents had been getting a carefully edited version of our relationship. Mom, Rachel has been lying to all of us. Emma has never been controlling. She's the most generous, kind person I know. Rachel manipulated the situation to make herself look like the caring sister while painting Emma as a bridezilla. But why would Rachel do that? Because she didn't want me to get married. She wanted to keep me to herself. The conversation lasted another hour, with Marcus's father eventually getting on the phone. They were devastated, confused, and angry. Rachel had been their informant about our marriage, their connection to Marcus's new life. Learning it had all been a lie was almost as hard for them as it was for us. "We're flying out next week," his mother said finally. "We need to see you both and figure out how to move forward as a family." After they hung up, Marcus looked emotionally drained. "I keep thinking about all the times she manipulated conversations to make you look bad. How many family dynamics? Did she poison without us even knowing?" "It doesn't matter now," I said, though my heart was still racing from the phone call. "Your parents will get to know the real me. The truth always comes out eventually." 2 days later, we got a call from Detective Morrison. Rachel had been arrested at her apartment, where they'd found additional evidence, including a second wedding dress she'd apparently stolen from another bridal shop in Seattle. Her obsession with weddings and brides went far deeper than just her jealousy of me. "She's been charged with theft, fraud, stalking, and harassment," Detective Morrison explained. "The Seattle dress was reported missing 6 months ago. We think there may be other victims." The local news picked up the story, running a segment about a wedding dress bandit who'd been terrorizing bridal shops across the Pacific Northwest. Rachel's perfectly crafted image began crumbling as other women came forward with similar stories. Missing dresses, forged documents, and elaborate photo shoots by a woman claiming to be a bride. Marcus's parents arrived the following Sunday, and for the first time since our wedding, I felt nervous meeting them. Rachel had been poisoning that relationship for months, and I wasn't sure what they really thought of me. But his mother, Patricia, hugged me tightly at the airport. "I'm so sorry, Emma. We should have questioned Rachel's stories. We should have called you directly and asked about your marriage instead of taking her word for everything. She's very convincing," I said. "She fooled all of us." That week with Marcus's parents was healing in ways I hadn't expected. They got to see our real relationship, how we supported each other, laughed together, navigated disagreements with respect and love. All the things Rachel had tried to convince them we didn't have. On their last night in town, Patricia pulled me aside while Marcus and his father were cleaning up dinner dishes. "I want you to know that Rachel called us last month," she said quietly. "She said you two were having problems and that Marcus was too proud to ask for help. She wanted us to stage an intervention." "What did you tell her?" "We told her that if Marcus needed us, he'd call. But Emma, if we'd believed her stories and shown up here thinking your marriage was in trouble..." Patricia shook her head. "Rachel almost destroyed your relationship with us before we even had a chance to build one. But you didn't believe her completely, or you would have come." "No, but we were worried. And that worry affected how we thought about you, even from a distance. That's not fair to you or to Marcus." Before they left for the airport, Patricia handed me a small wrapped box. "This belonged to Marcus's grandmother, my mother. I was saving it for when he got married, but Rachel convinced me to wait and see how your marriage went first. I should have given this to you at your wedding." Inside was a delicate gold bracelet with a small blue stone charm. "Something blue," Patricia said with tears in her eyes. "To replace what Rachel took from you." As their plane taxied down the runway, I realized that Rachel's final cruelty had backfired. By destroying my grandmother's ribbon, she'd opened the door for me to receive this new family heirloom. Her attempt to cut me off from Marcus's family had instead brought us closer together. The bracelet caught the light as I fastened it around my wrist, and for the first time in months, I felt like everything was going to be okay. 6 months after Rachel's arrest, I stood in my kitchen reading the morning newspaper when I saw her face staring back at me from the local section. The headline read, "Wedding Dress Thief Sentenced to 2 years in Prison." The article detailed how Rachel had pleaded guilty to multiple felony charges across 3 states. Besides my dress and the one from Seattle, investigators had discovered she'd stolen from bridal shops in Eugene, Spokane, and even as far south as Sacramento. Her apartment had contained a closet full of wedding dresses, all in similar sizes, all worn for elaborate photo shoots she'd staged with unknowing male models, hired through acting agencies. Marcus read the article over my shoulder as he poured his coffee. 2 years seems light for what she put people through. It's not just about the time, I said, folding the paper. It's about finally having closure. The past 6 months had been a journey of rebuilding trust and understanding. Marcus struggled with guilt over his sister's actions, blaming himself for not seeing the signs earlier. We'd gone to couples counseling, not because our marriage was in trouble, but because we needed help processing the betrayal from someone so close to us. Dr. Sarah Chen, our therapist, had explained that Rachel's behavior fit the pattern of someone with severe narcissistic personality disorder combined with an unhealthy attachment to her brother. She saw Emma as a threat to her primary relationship, and she was willing to destroy anything to maintain her position in Marcus's life, Dr. Chen had said. The wedding dress wasn't just a theft. It was symbolic of taking away Emma's special day, her moment of being the most important woman in Marcus's life. What helped most was learning we weren't alone. The support group Dr. Chen recommended connected us with other couples who dealt with toxic family members. Hearing similar stories from other people made us realize that Rachel's behavior, while extreme, followed predictable patterns of manipulation and control. The hardest part was rebuilding our relationship with Marcus's parents. Patricia and Robert had been devastated to learn how thoroughly Rachel had deceived them, and they'd initially wanted to fix everything by showering me with attention and gifts. It took time to establish a natural relationship built on genuine connection rather than guilt over their daughter's actions. We kept thinking we could help Rachel, Patricia had said during one of our long phone conversations. Every time she told us stories about problems in your marriage, we thought we were being supportive siblings and parents. We never questioned whether she might be lying. She was very convincing, I'd reassured her. She almost convinced me that I was the problem. The day Rachel was sentenced, Marcus and I decided to do something positive with the painful experience. We'd been talking for months about starting a blog or podcast about recognizing toxic family dynamics, and that morning felt like the right time to begin. What would you call it? Marcus asked as we brainstormed at our kitchen table. Family facades, I suggested. About the masks people wear and how to see past them. One message particularly stood out, from a woman named Jennifer in Colorado. Your story gave me the courage to finally confront my sister-in-law about her behavior. She'd been telling my husband I was cheating on him, showing him evidence she'd fabricated. I thought I was going crazy. Reading about Rachel's documentation and lies made me realize I wasn't imagining the manipulation. Thank you for helping me save my marriage. 3 months after starting the blog, we received an unexpected letter. The return address was the Oregon State Correctional Institution, and it was addressed to both of us in Rachel's familiar handwriting. Marcus and I debated for a week whether to read it. Finally, we decided we needed to know what she had to say, but we'd read it together with Dr. Chen present. The letter was typed, single-spaced, and 4 pages long. Dear Marcus and Emma, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I've been in therapy here and my counselor says I need to take responsibility for my actions if I want to get better. I want you to know that I understand now what I did was wrong. Not just the stealing, though that was obviously wrong, but the lying and manipulation that went on for years before that. I convinced myself I was protecting Marcus from making a mistake, but really I was just jealous and scared of being left behind. Emma, you never did anything to deserve what I put you through. You were kind to me from the beginning, and you tried to include me in your relationship with Marcus. I twisted that kindness into something threatening because I couldn't handle the idea that Marcus had found someone who made him happy in ways I never could. I know saying, sorry, doesn't fix the damage I caused, especially to your wedding day and your dress. I know those things can't be replaced. But I want you to know that every day in here, I think about how I hurt you both and how I ruined our family. The other women I stole from have written to me. Some of them have forgiven me, which I don't understand but am grateful for. Others told me how I destroyed their special days, just like I destroyed yours. Reading their letters made me realize this wasn't just about you and Marcus. I hurt a lot of innocent people because I couldn't deal with my own problems. I don't expect you to forgive me or have a relationship with me when I get out. I just wanted you to know that I take full responsibility for everything I did, and I'm working hard to understand why I did it so it never happens again. Marcus, you're a good man, and you deserve to be happy. Emma makes you happy in ways I could see but chose to ignore. I hope you can build a beautiful life together without the shadow of what I did hanging over you. Emma, you're stronger than I gave you credit for. The way you handled everything, with dignity and grace even when you had every right to hate me, showed me what kind of person you really are. Marcus is lucky to have found you. I'll understand if you don't write back. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, and that none of this was your fault. Rachel Dr. Chen waited quietly while Marcus and I processed the letter. Finally, she asked, "How does reading this make you feel?" "Sad," I said first. Not sorry for her, but sad for what could have been if she'd dealt with her feelings differently. Marcus nodded. It's the first time she's taken real responsibility, but it's also too late for our relationship. I can't trust her again. And that's okay, Dr. Chen said. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. You can acknowledge her apology without having to rebuild a relationship with her. We decided not to write back, but we did send the letter to Patricia and Robert. They deserved to know that their daughter was finally getting help and taking responsibility for her actions. It was a small step toward healing their own trauma from learning about Rachel's deception. A year later, Marcus and I renewed our vows on our second wedding anniversary. It wasn't because our marriage was in trouble, quite the opposite. We wanted to celebrate how much stronger we'd become together, and we wanted to create new, untainted memories of making promises to each other. This time, I wore a simple ivory dress I'd found at a boutique in the Pearl District. Nothing elaborate, just something that made me feel beautiful and confident. Patricia's blue stone bracelet was my something blue, and my friend Jessica made me a new bouquet with wildflowers from our own garden. The ceremony was small, just Marcus's parents, a few close friends, and Jessica officiating as our celebrant. We exchanged new vows we'd written together, promising not just to love and honor each other, but to protect our relationship from outside influences and to communicate openly about any concerns. I promised to choose our marriage first, Marcus said, tears in his eyes. To never let anyone drive a wedge between us, and to trust you completely with my heart. I promised to create a safe space for our love to grow, I replied. To support your relationships with people who truly care about us both, and to never let someone else's jealousy diminish our joy. After the short ceremony, we had dinner at our favorite restaurant with our small group of supporters. Patricia raised her glass for a toast. To Emma and Marcus, who showed us that real love doesn't just survive betrayal, it grows stronger because of how you handle it together. That night, as we looked through the photos from our vow renewal, Marcus pointed to one where we were both laughing at something Jessica had said during the ceremony. "Look at how genuinely happy we look," he said. "Rachel tried to steal that from us, but she couldn't. She could take your dress, manipulate situations, even damage our relationships with other people temporarily, but she couldn't touch what we have together." He was right. The woman who'd tried so hard to destroy our marriage had inadvertently made it stronger. We'd learned to communicate more openly, to trust each other completely, and to recognize manipulation before it could take root. Our blog, Family Facades, now has over 50,000 subscribers and has connected us with therapists, researchers, and advocates working to help people navigate toxic family dynamics. We've spoken at conferences and workshops, sharing our story not as victims, but as survivors who chose to build something positive from a painful experience. Sometimes I think about Rachel, serving out her sentence and hopefully getting the help she needs. I don't wish her harm, but I also don't spend much time wondering about her anymore. She had her chance to be part of our family, and she chose destruction instead. The wedding dress she stole and damaged is stored in our attic now, carefully preserved but never worn again. It's evidence of what we survived, but it's not the symbol of our marriage anymore. That honor belongs to Patricia's bracelet, which I wear every day, and to the simple ivory dress from our vow renewal, which hangs in our closet as a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful things come from the most painful experiences. Our story didn't end with a stolen dress or a manipulative sister-in-law. It ended with a marriage that's stronger than ever. A family that's learned to see past facades and the knowledge that real love, the kind worth fighting for, can survive anything. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.